Ask the Mayor. Your chance to ask the Mayor of Weymouth questions about the town and or anything else that you have concerns about. Ask the Mayor is pre-recorded. And now, Ask the Mayor with Bob Hedlund.
Well, welcome back to another exciting, action-packed, fun-filled episode of Ask the Mayor. I am your co-host, your citizen advocate, Jim Melody. Good to see everybody again. I am joined, as always, by the mayor of the great town of Weymouth, the Honorable Robert Hedlund. Robert, how are you?
I'm good, and Jim, this is we're multitasking.
Yes, I see you're very preoccupied.
Responding-
Buy, pork bellies, buy, sell.
I'm responding to a department head in real time here as you
hey now.
as you attempt to interview me.
All right, well, Robert, welcome back. We're excited to be back here in your office. I hope things have been going well since our last taping.
When was that?
Nixon was president. Well, we don't do them as often as we did, but that's why their quality, not quantity, has always been our delivery here at the home of the hits. And Robert, if you don't mind, I know you're steadfast as always on getting to as many questions as possible to answer the questions to the citizens of the great town of Weymouth.
Let's roll.
The ever-growing, expanding town of Weymouth. What is the current population, sir? Around 80,000? Is that what we have?
Well, it depends how you want to calculate it. You want to go by the U.S. Census? We're at I think 58.
We're only at 58,000 people? Son of a gun. I always thought it was closer to 80.
That doesn't include all the illegal boarders that you have holed up in your house.
Yeah,
for
well,
high rent.
there's 7 so far, and I am accepting applicants. If well, considering that the rents in Weymouth are so reasonable, I can't see. I'm only charging $3,500 for a one-bedroom.
What was that question again?
The question is, I was curious about the overall population of the town of Weymouth. So it's not even 60,000.
It's within your purview as the citizen advocate to ask your own questions too. But
okay.
I'm sure the people find your questions rather inane and would rather hear what they have to say.
Well, Bob, are we at the high water mark? Just because I did stumble into this category, is this the all-time high for population of Weymouth? For some reason, I thought it was closer to 80. But so
80?
Yeah, I did for some reason. But it hovers around 60. Is that what it's been? Or
No, we actually, it's an interesting question, Jim.
Hey, one for my career here.
People don't believe this, but from 1970 to approximately 2010, Weymouth's population was flat while the South Shore population skyrocketed. So when people talk about
Growth.
traffic and growth in the region, it's mostly elsewhere.
Interesting.
So if you think about it, like for instance, when I lived on Longwood Road up until recently, 2-bedroom ranches back in the 70s, 4, 5, 6 people in those houses.
Sure. 9 in my parents right down the road.
Right. Now you go and you walk up Longwood Road and almost every house is occupied by single person or a couple.
No kidding, yeah.
So there has been obviously a lot of building to accommodate some growth, but it's smaller households too.
Do you project out the population in lieu of the growth and the development that's going on in the town?
Projections are made by the planning department, look at, impact on resources, water, et cetera, when every building is approved, yes.
Do you see that number getting into the mid-60s then?
No.
Well, it looks like there's a couple thousand units being built around town.
I think right now in progress, it's not even that high.
Okay. So we are in a growth mode, that's fair to say.
There's been investment and redevelopment in Weymouth in the last 10 years, yeah. So it has changed. Well, and also our last census number was higher. So it was up about 2,000, I think. You put me on the spot with this, but I think we're up 2,000 over 10 years from the last census.
Roughly. So we're hovered in that 50 to 60,000 range essentially for the last 20, 30 years then?
Oh, yeah, longer.
Oh, son of a gun. Well, and final question relative to this category. I always thought
He's hijacking the show, folks.
I always thought Weymouth was one of the biggest towns, if not the biggest town in the state of Massachusetts. Does it fall in the top 5 with that type of population?
Yeah, it was one of the biggest towns.
Towns, right.
Who had a town designation, but now we're considered a town with a
always confusing for me.
This city known as the town of Weymouth is our legal name. Framingham had us beat, by the way. They just recently copied our charter. And they were the biggest town in the state, and they have now also gone to a city form of government.
The town known as a city. I'm the man known as the myth.
Can we get to a question now?
And yes, We've got, Robert, I feel like I'm playing cards in Vegas. We've got a plethora. I got a full house, and are you ready, sir? Here we go.
I was ready 15 minutes ago when the show started.
And we were ready 45, but hey, who's keeping time here at the home? It's Robert, this one is regarding the herring run. It's question number 1 for Dear Mr. Mayor. When the herring run behind the Venetian was done over maybe 10 years or so ago, they did a great job. The only problem is no one maintains it other than mowing the grass. The area where the flowering bushes were planted is all overgrown. The nice granite steps with the fish engraved on them that lead to the water is also overgrown. Weeds and trees grow wild, and the signage is also failing. When and if Jackson Square is done over again, what is the plan for this park? And more importantly, who's going to maintain the work that is done? This is a park that needs some organization to adopt it for regular care, but I don't see that happening. I took it for a few years, but it was too much for one person. Thoughts on Paula? Thank you, Paula, for your work.
If I answer this question, promise me no follow-ups.
Promise.
Okay, so she's partially correct, she's partially wrong. So 10 years ago, I don't know what was done. She's very observant, very, very active around town, so I would trust her assessment.
Okay, excellent.
We did do some work since then, most recently when we did the flood control project that replaced the faulty flood control gates that have been defective for about 40 to 50 years, resulting in fish kill over behind Nico's. We had a little money left over in that project. It was below budget, and we applied that funding to dredge where she sites. So there has been some maintenance work, the kind you don't see, but the kind that's very beneficial to the species. So there was some work done at that time. I know that we planted some new bushes over there too. There's some problems over there. Bottom line though is there is an organization that adopted it. In the community benefit portion of the agreement that was struck when Metri was before the Board of Zoning Appeals and got the approvals for his redevelopment of the gas station across the street, not the one next to, but across the street over by 7-Eleven, he agreed to take on the maintenance of that park and actually make some improvements to the park. Now, he has not moved forward with his project, so it would be a great question for me to follow up and ask the planning department if in that agreement, since he hasn't broken ground, if he's responsible for it or not. But regardless, if his agreement doesn't kick in until, I think usually they kick in when they get an occupancy permit. In some other ones I'm familiar with, we'll have DPW get down there and spruce it up. We had bigger plans for that park, by the way. We've been negotiating with another Metri, a different Metri, on getting that Citgo gas station out of there. With the redevelopment of Jackson Square looming with Eric Papachristos' investment down there, we thought that was a perfect time because we need to replace a culvert that runs under the road. It affects that location, and we think that when the development is done down there, that gas station probably will not be worth what it's worth now. We offered them a pretty good deal. We upped our price twice. We negotiated in good faith.
Well, the town's trying to buy the property.
We spent money on an appraisal, and we'd like to get that gas station. The tanks in the gas station sit on top of the herring run. Yeah. And that would be a gateway to the new development in Jackson Square, getting that thing out of there and making it a park and enlarging the park that Ms. Mine writes about. So that's a very thorough synopsis of an answer to her question, I think.
So it's
no follow-up on this one.
I'm about to make an overview. The point being that good is about to get better. Is that fair to say? So, because I think they did do a good job. But if it was 10 years ago, it looks great.
Well, I think we were anticipating Metri taking that park over, and it might need some work. I was down there when the herring run was running. Watched the cormorants going after eggs, but I haven't been down there lately. So I'll check it out, and we'll get DPW over. Next question.
But good things coming to that square. All right, Robert. This one's titled Letdown, so I wouldn't expect anything positive here, although we do not read the questions prior to neither one of us seeing these questions prior to sitting down. Dear Letdown from Kathy Rizzo. Dear Mayor, I'm contacting you regarding an issue I brought up during last season's flag football season. I suggested a secure path for easier entry onto level grounds to accommodate the handicapped, elderly, baby strollers, etc. at Riley Field. Mr. Mayor, you thought it was a doable project and put it into the possible pile.
When you get a question like that, Donnie, you have to give me that for future reference. And it goes in. We have two additional piles to that. We have the take action file, and we have the circular file over here.
As opposed to the impossible pile,
I
would imagine.
I remember the question.
I was disappointed last week to see that nothing has been done to improve the entrance as yet. What happened? Also, there is no, in capital, no handicap parking spaces on the top level parking lot. There is one close to the path going down to the baseball field. This needs to be fixed. Thank you for your attention to these important requests from Kathy Rizzitano on Mutton Lane.
So, what's that old saying? Rome wasn't built in a day, right? Riley Field wasn't built in a year. There's a lot of capital projects going on around town. We have very active, engaged staff that are handling a ton, whether it be water and sewer infrastructure work that you'll see going on all over town right now. It's crazy. We have three major sewer projects going on, water main replacements. You see the work on Pleasant Street. It's everywhere.
There's construction in Weymouth right now?
We have work going on at Old Abigail Adams. We got Columbian Square. We got the beach connection and stabilization project. We got coastal protection improvements in North Weymouth. We got the seawall. We got a lot going on. This one is a little bit down the food chain, but we have another project there that the handicap access is tied into. She may have noticed that there will be pickleball courts installed there.
Big doings.
Sort of in the back left corner when you come in towards the Little League fields.
Sure, they'll be popular.
And there will be handicap access up to the main area of Riley Field along with some parking. So that's actually happening. That measure has gone through the council. I know Steve had we received a lot of concerns from neighbors that were worried about the lights that will go with the pickleball court. And there've been a series of meetings with them, and that slowed it down a little bit, but I think we're good to go, and she'll see those improvements.
So it's on the list and coming soon, hopefully.
Yep.
Okay, excellent. I know.
Well, it was conceptual when she wrote last year, but now it's actually happening.
Excellent. So moving forward. Robert, storm surge preparation from Beverly D. Morat. Dear Mayor, with climate change pushing the limits of our coastline, I'm worried about our North Weymouth neck and tidal surges during hurricanes and snowstorms. Many residents, especially seniors who may ride out the storm in their Fort Point road home, have come to rely on parking their cars in the beach parking lot, which, as you know, is now under a locked entry system. Is this on the town's radar? Will the town keep those gates open during storms? Thank you, Beverly D. Morat.
Yes.
Sounds like a good idea. Excellent. Boy,
One of my favorite stories during my mayoral tenure, we had a heavy snowstorm, I think my first or second year here. And we looked them up, but we got an irate call. There's a lot of folks that need that parking. I mean, we have some actual houses that don't even have driveways in North Weymouth. It's pretty tight. So people rely on that during a storm. Or they might have additional cars that they can't fit in their driveway, and obviously they got to get it out of the road. There was a guy who was living with his girlfriend and her parents, so they had a lot of cars. And he put his car down there, and he called up and he wanted to know if we were going to shovel out the area between the two cars.
Can I get on that list?
I know. I mean, people's expectations sometimes. That's like the one where we had a woman that wanted to know if we would take her barrel from the porch down to the curb every day. Not making this up. That was a good one. We get a lot of those. But Beverly should also know that, we're in the midst, and I just mentioned it in the last question, a lot of capital projects that are addressing coastal protection. She probably is well aware of the Fort Point seawall project and drainage improvements on that road, but also we'll be elevating Neck Street because she's correct. In a storm, it floods over, goes into the parking lot. So the parking lot and the roadway will be elevated through what's called an MVP grant, Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Grant. And we've been very active and aggressive on getting grants. Our grant coordinator, Leilani Dalpe, is really aggressive on this stuff. She's done great work on that. So there'll be a lot of infrastructure work going up there that will help alleviate that. We have to send a fire engine down to the neck during storms because of the fact that sometimes the road is impassable. So I know you, living in East Weymouth and now South Weymouth, would not be aware of that fact because the limits of your travel in North Weymouth and at the peak of Great Hill, is that right?
I've never been flooded once on Great Hill, I can say.
Have you ever gone swimming at Lane Beach in your life?
Yeah, when we were younger, we used to go to.
All right.
Wait a minute. Lane is West Augusta, right? I thought it was the Whitman Pond Beach. We took swimming lessons at in fact, they weren't swimming lessons. The outflow from Procter & Gamble, we used to just walk out to the docks. It was like, with all the sludge and the mud. Yes, we spent a considerable amount of time down there with the Murray family, of course. All right, Robert, a regular topic of conversation is the famous and fabulous Emery estate, and this one's from Noman Nasio, I believe. Noman, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. What specifically is the mayor, that would be you, sir, what specifically is the mayor doing to address the continuing deterioration of the historic house at the Emery estate? It sounds like it's time for an update, Bob.
Well, we just referenced Leilani, our grant writer, and she's
she's
been the Doug Flutie on this, and I hate answering these questions. This one is fast approaching Comcast level. Okay.
Hey now.
All right.
What, overpriced and under delivery?
It's approaching Comcast level. So quick synopsis. Town preserve the land was the goal because it was going to be developed, and the house probably would have been torn down as part of that subdivision project. Under Mayor Kay, they went through the CPA and got it now and she had committees to look at it. Since I've been here, we've had 2 committees, we've sent out RFPs, we've done years of due diligence trying to come up with a plan to save the house. It's millions and millions and millions of dollars. If I were to spend the money on that at the expense of other things in town, I'd probably be impeached. So we are trying to take a creative approach. Every single wedding venue operator in the state has looked at it.
Sure.
Because everyone thinks it's a great venue for weddings.
Yeah, definitely.
The house doesn't work to host any kind of events. All the rooms are small. It's not ADA compliant. There's asbestos, there's lead, there's raccoons, there's everything. We also have an agreement with the neighbors who accepted the beautiful park that we built with a grant, that it wouldn't be very invasive activities up there, like a wedding to host 300 people. Sure. And for the wedding venue operators, there's an economy of scale that they need. So all those things that people keep talking about have been exhausted and investigated. Leilani came aboard. She took this on as a pet project. And slowly but surely, she's been getting grant money in, historic preservation type grants. She's worked on having some events up there that have brought in revenue. And we're doing things to work and get the envelope safe, get it remediated, which is expensive, get the asbestos out of there. It has asbestos shingles. Get the lead paint off there and make the building tight. So that's where we're at. It's a long-range goal. It's not an immediate goal. We don't have $3 million to immediately put into the site. There are those on staff that have advocated for it to be torn down, which
we've heard that before.
And the Emerys said, we don't care if you tear it down, because they know that the house is beat. So that's the update. We're putting a prohibition on more Emery questions, because I almost went berserk over this past weekend on good old Weymouth, the Facebook page, the only Weymouth one I remain on. And people were saying this was criminal, that we're letting it decay. And no, we're doing things to save it. And if people would actually, that don't turn into WETC, would turn on WETC and look at the development update that we did on this, they would be informed and they would be up to speed on it. So I would encourage you, if you haven't seen it, check out you can put the little arrow thing in your graphics. Next question. But we do appreciate the question.
I've already turned the page.
Oh, can I?
That's not the question. That's the next one.
All right, go ahead.
The aggression.
I was going to put it in the shredder.
Hey, wait a minute. Hold on a second. Robert?
No, actually, I don't have a shredder here, but Gene has one out there.
Not that he'll talk about.
No, I don't.
But the short answer is we're trying to save it, we're trying to preserve it, and it's a long-range project.
And so far, I said, it's like a luxury item, like the Beach Connection project. I didn't want to use taxpayer money on it. We've gone after grants. I started out saying that the Beach Connection project was a luxury, but now we're realizing it's an actual necessity for the coastal stabilization and everything, which the town was looking at since 1979, and nobody did anything on it.
About
same thing with this.
It was a lot Jim Melody, Jeff Cummings live up at the Emery Estate. All right, Robert. Hands off these questions, sir.
Go ahead.
Chapman school uses, from the old to the new, from Marge West. Hello, Mayor Bob. Now that Chapman School has been open for a year and the new school year has started, are there any plans to reintroduce the adult ed program, which included computer classes, digital photography, and culinary classes? With the state-of-the-art school in our town, it seems a great use of resources for all the residents in Weymouth. Thank you, Marge West, and she wants to go back to school, Robert. What do you think?
This is amazing. The great part about the show is sometimes I learn something.
Aha! Well, that's what I'm here for.
I have no idea, and I was not aware of the program that she speaks of.
That it ever existed, or will it be reinstituted?
I don't know.
Either or, okay. Well, that's a good
I didn't know we did it, and I don't know if what I didn't know we did is going to be reinstituted.
Well, that's okay.
But Marge,
yeah, we're going to save. Oh, we're not destroying this one. We're saving this one.
Isn't
Marge? And that sounds like great.
Isn't Marge the one that asked me out on a date when we did the live show?
Oh, hey, now.
Mayor Hedlund, I'm Judy Briggs. I have a personal question.
No, I'm busy Saturday night.
He's single.
Hey now, you know. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Did you get a rose that afternoon?
I think you sang. The folks at the senior center were swooning over him.
I got 3 phone numbers that afternoon.
They started hallucinating, thinking that they were watching Wayne Newton.
I've always been very Pavarotti. I prefer, if you don't mind. I've always been popular with the 90
rapid
plus
fire. Let's get to the rest.
Wait a minute. You want me to be as silent as this fella? All right, hold on a second. All right. So the classes are a good idea. I like that, by the way. I didn't know we did. Okay, that sounds good. I might even get into culinary classes.
Please.
I'm slimming down. All right, Robert. Fire hydrants and painting sidewalks, too, from our good friend, Mr. Ed Harden. Hello, Mayor Bob and Jim. Fight fire with fire melody. That's right. I need to, Ed. I have a question about fire hydrant codes and enforcement. There is a code that states in some cases each side of a hydrant must be painted red on the curb and in the street to prevent someone from parking in front of the hydrant in case there's a fire and the firefighters cannot get their hoses on the hydrant. Does the town of Weymouth have a code in their book that states the painting should and must be done? Are you aware if this is true in Weymouth? If there is a code, is it up to the town fire department or public works to paint the curbs to hopefully keep drivers out of that area? Thank you, Ed Harden. And Bob, as a quick reminder, I'm always available to paint any hydrant. That could be.
There is no code on that. There is ordinances about parking within 10 feet of the hydrant or something like that.
So the red on either side is not something you're familiar with.
Water department and the DPW maintain the hydrants. Fire department doesn't maintain them. One thing that was a pet peeve of mine when I rode my bicycle around town, they have the little things that poles that stick up from the hydrant so that fire department can see it when there's a storm.
Yeah, sure.
And some of them are bent and stick out over the sidewalk, and it was a pet peeve of mine.
Can't get your bike by.
And after I was sworn in, I yelled at the chief, and the chief informed me that it was DPW that maintains the hydrants. And I think you did a great public service where you painted a hydrant.
In fact, I did.
Is that the same guy that came out and painted the fire hydrant in front of your house?
That was me that painted that fire hydrant. Wait a minute. Somebody come back and after I painted it, somebody from the fire department painted it, repainted it.
Yeah, because they were upset that you painted it lavender. It has to be either yellow, it has to be yellow or red, Jim. Yellow or red so they can find it.
I'm thinking I was doing a great thing for my town and my neighborhood.
There was a guy that contacted me when I first became mayor, and he wanted to volunteer his time and paint them, and I hooked him up with the fire department, DPW, and he did some too. So thank you. As long as you did the right color, right?
Well, as it turns out, I wasn't. There are some codes, and I did paint it wrong, and within 2 minutes, it was repainted a different color.
So anyway, I think we answered that. But
yeah, no doubt. No code.
No code, right.
And Ed, keep that can of paint in your pocket.
I mean, there's other ordinances that address parking in front of it, et cetera, et cetera.
As Mick Jagger would say, paint it black, Ed, you devil. All right, Robert. We're getting almost to the conclusion of another fast pack.
And you don't have to give the address out because we're on hiatus after this one. So go.
Hey now.
2 more questions.
All right, here we go. Robert, cars and trucks, fast driving, impatience and speed limits. One of your pet peeves we know from historically doing 112 episodes of Ask the Mayor from Dan Curran, Mayor Bob, and Jim. I made the cut on this one. Although you have discussed traffic speeding in the past few years, many times, he must be a listener, it is becoming increasingly worse in the past several months. Over the past 3 years, the population of our city has increased in total volume, not necessarily so, as we found out earlier in this episode. With that, there appears to be a disregard for the motor vehicle laws regarding safe driving, and our city eyewitness this daily. I know we do not.
I would say we have a disregard for all laws right now in our society. I'm serious.
Yeah. Well,
it's ridiculous. There's a disregard for authority, disregard for laws. I don't know if it's regional. I was amazed. I was just out in Wisconsin. I drove an hour and a half one way to Appleton, an hour and a half back to Milwaukee, and it blew my mind on the highway 90-minute aggregate total. I saw no one, there were people going over the speed limit. I saw nobody weave. I saw no aggressive driving. It blew my mind. And I think we're just, it's a cultural thing here in New England. I don't know what it is, but it's not just Weymouth, it's everywhere, right?
Massholes, where do you think that word
awful.
comes from?
So I agree with them, and I'm always on the police department to get aggressive with speeding. As again, I referenced I'm on my bicycle, I walk a lot. I have a kid that's out there with his friends on bicycles, and it scares me the way people drive. And, you know, I stay on the police department whenever possible. They do get grants that allow for overtime where they go out and just, when they do it, it's amazing. It's like shooting fish in a barrel. They go out and just pick one car after another after another. And it's even people in their own neighborhood that are doing it. It isn't just Hingham people cutting through in their SUVs, the Chevy Black Suburbans.
I've complimented you in the past before. I think those digital readouts that say that blink how fast you're going. I think
somebody told us we should make them red, and I agree. That was a great bit of input. And I think I saw one in Hingham that flashes red when you're over the limit on the pedestrian crosswalk ones. Let's get to that last question.
Well, no, let me finish the part. You didn't listen. I know you're fond of cutting me off in mid-sentence, but let's let Dan finish. I know we do not have a neighborhood watch program, but I certainly wish we could implement this type of program. Traffic enforcement is great, but it takes staffing. I'm writing today to offer my time as part of the beginning of the solution, so feel free to reach out. Dan, we want you on that wall. We need you on that wall.
So there are actually neighborhood watch groups in certain neighborhoods that have organized it themselves.
Dan, take a look.
It's something that's self-organized. They get the signage up and they appoint people, I think. Maybe it's just the signage works too, but
that's okay.
I am aware of one neighborhood in Weymouth that actually has that, and they have someone that takes a little walk around on occasion.
But a great point, and we remind and ask everybody to please keep an eye, especially on the speed of your vehicles, because it's easy to go fast. We know that for sure. All right, Robert, dear Mayor, we need better patch jobs is the title of this one. What a summer!
Better what?
We need better patch jobs. I presume they refer to the roads. What a summer it was for construction! Exclamation point. It seemed like there was something being built on every corner of Weymouth and on the corner of those corners. My question has to do with the patch jobs in the streets once these buildings tie into the underground utilities. Does the town ever inspect these patch jobs? It's like navigating the moon. Who is allowing these construction companies to leave these steep ditches in the roadway for a normal car to get by without doing damage to their vehicle? Not everyone has that kind of suspension.
Is this an old one that
this
came
isn't
in?
This could be written yesterday, today, or tomorrow.
Is this an old one that came in during the Union Street work, Jim?
It does say anonymous JM with the initials I. You know I'm not blessed with the gift of brevity, so here's my comment on what's going on at Union Street driving down the road.
Two words.
Holy. You better have a big truck.
There's no benefit to Weymouth from that work. You know that?
Right. So
wait a minute,
I can give you two instances where I flipped out. I went over to Pravides to grab some lunch. We used to, in Quincy, we call it Pravides.
How do you get to Pravides?
I know it's Previty. I know in Weymouth it's Prevides. When it was in Quincy, it's Pravides. Anyway, the Hanover Company project, it was a disgrace how the road was left. There was spilt gravel, horrible patch job. I call up. I'm informed by the developer that the site guys, which is a Weymouth-based company, I might add.
Hey now.
In their contract or in their protocols are supposed to patch every day because there's been so much water main work and sidewalk work going on. And that day it was a Friday and they split. So they called them back and they were out there. I can think of other examples. It's horrible. It's brutal in Columbian Square right now. But that,
you don't say.
But what do you expect? It's an $11 million job
no doubt.
where $8 million of the work in the $11 million job is underground. Literally, $8 million of that is underground. So there are utilities being replaced, relocated, and it's a moving target. I mean, some of it you can't fault them, others you can. Hanover Companies project, you can fault them. A lot of the trench work. I went over to today. I wish I could remember what street it was. Smooth as silk, nice patchwork.
Hingham. It's called Hingham.
No, Hingham my ass. Go through downtown Hingham right now. I almost broke my car in half on North Street. He knows.
He's the one who dug the hole.
So don't give me this Hingham. Don't give me this Hingham crap. I don't even think Hingham has a DPW anymore. You got weeds this high in the sidewalk. So it's a hit or miss with this. We try to stay on them. We have street prohibitions. Can't open the street for 5 years. We got people begging. oh, well, can you make an exception for me? We stay disciplined unless it's emergency work.
All right, so they're doing the best they can.
You got one
arguably.
more. Let's see if
Okay,
we can do it.
we got time for one more. All right, Robert, here's the $1 million Megillah. Affordability in Weymouth, my friend. Dear Mayor, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to insert into there. What can be done in terms of housing affordability in our town? Young adults with college loans cannot afford to purchase a home in town, and now the rental market is going through the roof. A one-bedroom apartment in Weymouth Commons, not an upscale complex, put it politely. That's not my editorial insertion. That was written. It's nearly $2,700 flipping dollars a month for a one-year
Would
lease.
you say what mildly?
Not an upscale complex, to put it politely. It was the language that was used there.
I was going to say that's
It doesn't seem
an
fair to
overstatement or an
next
understatement.
But $2,700. I paid less in Manhattan.
Pay less on my home mortgage.
Yeah, ditto. So one bedrooms, with all the construction, you would think, more supply, the rates would come down.
Amazing. A lot of people don't think that. They think the more
You would
there
think.
are, they think somehow it's driving prices up.
We're not seeing that, though.
But it's a phenomenon that's throughout the whole state.
No doubt.
We
in
have
the
one of the
country.
most expensive housing states in the country. We have a short supply of housing overall in the state. There's been studies done in terms of what the needs are. The only thing I can say is, yes, property values are going up and rents are going up in Weymouth. With a lot of the work we're doing on amenities in town, you're a realtor, you know what I'm talking about. It's a more desirable place, and people want to live here now. There's more demand. However, what we're trying to do is, there's actually a couple of the projects that you talk about have an affordable housing component. The Wharf project on Wharf Street.
For Weymouth residents, so Weymouth residents get some sort of...
There was a lottery held for that, and yes, Weymouth residents got
excellent
lower rate units there. The same thing is happening with the project at the old Bomo. Okay.
It's not $99 a night still?
Papa,
that's what I'm offering.
$39.99. And
There's an hourly rate too, if I remember.
and Papa Christos's project. This is an important one. So the $100 million worth of investment being made in Jackson Square, about to be made, or hopefully being made in Jackson Square by Eric Papa Christos. We limited that to 4 stories. And when the council got the zoning change, one of the councilors pushed for an affordable component, and in exchange gave him an extra floor. So one of those buildings is going to be 5 stories instead of 4, which was what the council approved, taking it a little higher than what we had sent to them, so that there's an affordable component there too.
So all the councilors will be moving into that floor.
No. But,
so something for something game they play.
Some of the projects you see have that affordable, and granted, it's not a huge number, but
it's a start.
We have what we have to work with.
Yeah, sure.
We had some other initiatives. We can do it on a later show, but we had some things that were sort of stymied. There was going to be some work at Lake Street that would have maybe created some more opportunities during the Trump administration when they did that tax bill for the targeted investment. We couldn't get that off the ground necessarily with the Housing Authority. But some other things we're looking at, we actually just took tax title to some land at so-called Dwyer Mountain off of Route 53 behind Monahan's, and that's going into our affordable housing portfolio. We'll be putting RFPs out for a project there once the site's cleaned up.
All right, development.
So we're trying to do some things.
All right, we appreciate the response, Bob. We are being told by our friends here at WETC we need to wrap this up, so we are going to say thank you very much, as always, everybody, for tuning in. Bob, any final thoughts as we look to conclude another episode?
See you in November.
See you in
right?
November.
We're on hiatus for a little while. I think Mary is afraid of equal time provisions with a political race looming.
Oh, is that an issue? All right, so do we dare ask?
In her mind it is.
Will there be another revenge tour for the mayor? The sequel, Hedlund 5.
We'll see you at the next appearance. The next appearance on WETC will be Candidates Night at North Weymouth Civic Association.
And I'm putting my papers in the next few hours. Give you competition instead of this guy.
You're a little late.
Story of my life. Well, listen, thanks everybody again for tuning in. Have a great fall, and we'll see you when we Christmas. So stay tuned for Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
If you have a question, please email the mayor at askmayorbob@gmail.com. That's askmayorbob@gmail.com. Maybe your question will be answered on the next episode of Ask the Mayor.